gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Universal Lens. We are on video today, something new for us. We're trying a different feel today, and we're going to be joined in a few minutes by Michael Locasto from the Monk's Mind on Instagram, along with, as you can see right here, my good friend and co-pilot, Henry Beltra.
Pleasure to be here. Now they get a chance to see us in action.
Yes, they get to see these beautiful faces. Depends who you're talking to, I guess, on the whole beautiful faces. But
obviously you.
Ooh, sorry about that.
So, well, actually, I seen pictures of Michael. I think he's got us beat. He's got us beat.
Yeah, he's a good-looking dude. I give him that. I'm man enough to say it. He's a good-looking dude.
We should have thought of this earlier. We should have good-looking dude on so to capture all the ladies, and you're gonna see. You're gonna see ladies. It's a good one because I seen him in video. I seen him. We did a little research and a good looking dude. You want to stick around for this one?
Okay,
no, John. It's important. It's important. Sexy sells. Isn't that why you have me around?
Yes, but that's the only reason why I got you, dude.
Isn't that why you have me around? And today I'm all covered up. All right.
Okay, hold on. Time out. Just for everybody understands, when he comes here, usually he's always covered up. I don't want anybody getting the idea that you're coming here and you're not covered up. It's not that kind of show.
People know you're full of shit.
Yeah. Oh my God. So while we're waiting for Michael, what's been new? What have you been up
to? Between work and baseball. Not much. Just work and baseball. Not my baseball,
Well, you're not playing? I thought you were.
I hung it up a while ago with the Yankees.
Did you, man? Was it they weren't feeding you enough?
Yeah, no. I would say that wasn't the problem. They weren't paying me enough.
So my father-in-law, a funny little story while we're waiting. My father-in-law, well, I guess this is a story I was told. That I don't have any documentation on this. I don't know how true it is, how not true it is. My father-in-law was, back in the day when he was younger, was a pretty good ball player from what I hear, right? Nice. And at one point, this is what I was told, right? So anybody who knows me, this might call bullshit, that he played for the Phillies minor league organization at some point. And now knowing my father-in-law, this is the part I do believe, he left because he said they weren't feeding him enough. Now, if you knew my father-in-law before he passed away, the man, like I do, enjoyed eating. Like we enjoyed food and we enjoyed eating. And the story was, my mother always said he left because they didn't feed him enough. And me and my brother-in-law Tom always be like, yeah, you sure about that? I know that the man liked to eat, but is that why they got rid of him? Is that why he left?
That's a little bit sus, as they say.
Yes, that's a good word. That is a good word.
But hey, I mean, if you're the mill. If you're anywhere near the minor leagues, you're pretty damn good. So anywhere near there, you're good.
If you could sniff it, you're golden.
Yeah, it's a grind. I mean, I have that friend who was in the Phillies. He was in the Phillies system. I don't know how many years he did, but guys, an animal.
Who?
Ed Rosado.
Oh, the guy from the Arsenal.
Yeah. Oh, right? Now he's at PRD. I'm sorry?
Wasn't Ed from? Ed was from the Arsenal when the boys were younger, right?
Yep. Yeah, he's got a younger boy. His kid just started. I think he's a freshman now.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Stud kid. He's raising. He can develop. He can. Yeah, he can mold.
And also a gentleman of a guy.
Oh, he's
sweet gentleman. Yeah,
I'm gonna say it right now. I would say the best youth coach you're gonna come across. Because not only is he good with the kids, like he actually teaches well the game of baseball. Yeah, I'm gonna put him up there in like the Hall of Fame of youth coaches. Like
really?
He's superb.
Wow,
superb.
That's awesome.
Not really good. And he used to give lessons to my older son on catching, and he used to give lessons to my both boys for hitting. Because he was a catcher. He was a catcher. That was his thing. But he had a cannon. Also, so he really good baseball player, and but a hell of a human being. And I hope he's watching so he sees the accolades. Ed, we weren't thinking about talking about you, but here you are. And he's a true gentleman too. Just a beautiful human being.
Yeah. Cool.
No,
Very,
yeah.
very cool.
The organization PRD is the current club, and he's there now. He coaches. I think he coaches 2 teams.
Oh, very
Yeah,
cool.
if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it's funny because the gentleman who's going to be joining us in a few minutes, Michael, was apparently, from what I read, and we'll get into it with him once he comes on, was a bit of a baseball player when he was younger and had to give up the career due to an injury. And then he did some work with the Diamondbacks. So it kind of ties in this whole beginning of baseball theme that we had going on here. And he's a breath coach and a mindfulness coach and just a very soft and well-spoken gentleman. Actually, he is here, so we're going to let him in. Just bear with me a second, everybody.
There he is.
Hey, Michael, welcome. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hello. Are we on the air?
Yes, we are. We are live. We had started
Beautiful.
just a couple of minutes ago, and welcome you in. I'll let Henry introduce himself.
Hey, Michael, I'm Henry.
Henry, welcome.
Thank you. I'm John's vice president.
Question
Co-pilot.
for y'all real quick.
Yes, sir.
Is there a way to make this full screen?
You might have that control there. What are you seeing on your side right now?
I am seeing
So if you want to expand the frame on the top, I think I have 3 views right now. I see myself, Henry, and then you're on the far right. On the top right of your screen of your picture, there should be like a little square that will say expand frame.
Let's see.
Where you can make yourself larger and the other 2 people smaller. Do you guys see that?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. I was just wondering if I can make it
where you don't see us at all.
Where I didn't see my background.
Oh, we don't see.
Yeah, that's all right though.
Yeah, it's a very nice background.
No, it's just like the little Apple things here, but no worries.
Yeah, so on my side, I don't see that.
Oh, you don't?
Same.
No, all I see is you, the beautiful bookcase, and that lovely picture behind you with the wall and a little plant over your shoulder.
Well, let's see if I can get this. Let's see if I can get this accurate here then.
I mean, from what I could see, it's a nice picture.
Enter full screen. Let's try. There we go. We'll do that.
Sorry,
make it easy.
Yeah, this is our first time using this app, so it's
beautiful.
A little bit of a So, Michael, welcome again.
Yes, John, Henry, it's a pleasure to be here.
So, Monk's Mind.
Monk's Mind.
Love the name, by the way. Love the name. I don't know how you. I mean, it's a name I wish I would have thought of because it's a perfect way to kind of embody what you want your mind to be. You know, to have that mind of a kind of that tranquility and peace and mindfulness that a monk would have. So it's a great handle. Very catchy, just right off the bat. So it's a good way to get people to come in.
No, it's like the universal lens, right? It's. I believe we're speaking from
yes, we are. We
similar space.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about, I guess, your story, kind of where you started, and I know you do breath work and stuff like that to kind of give everybody a better idea of exactly what you're all about.
Oh, my story. This has changed. No, I know this has changed a million times, but it's good to give a little bit of context for people. Absolutely. So they know where I'm coming from. And ever since I was a young boy, I loved sports. I was drawn to athletics, and it was during that time where looking back, I recognized that the states that I was able to access within myself as a kid playing hockey, playing baseball, it was a lot like flow state, which has been a part of my journey throughout. And it wasn't until I was 10 years old where I developed a rare spinal disease called Scheuermann's disease. It's like a hunchback. So if you can imagine, here I am as a 10, 12-year-old boy, and I had the image of Quasimodo. Okay. So talk about insecurity, talk about a kid that's anxious. And growing up in a family that didn't teach me how to be with my sensitivity, to be with my emotions, I learned really quick how to harden myself.
Yeah.
I found the weight room. I found alcohol, and I started hardening myself 6, 7 days a week. I lifted. I was into developing myself as an athlete, but really I look back and it was more so how do I deal with this part of me that feels life. And so long story short, I had 8 years of debilitating back pain when I tried performing in athletics. I went through Western medicine, had cortisone injections as a 15-year-old boy trying to play baseball. I had a spine that didn't rotate. I had all these things working against me, but I was seeking for answers externally. And fortunate enough, I found some sort of relief with, I mean, my strength program helped a little bit from a durability standpoint. And I found acupuncture and Pilates my senior year of baseball. So I was able to extend my baseball career into college. And that's when I became really passionate about human performance, strength and conditioning specifically.
Yeah.
How do I maximize human potential? That was really what I was into. And when I was 22 years old, my back caught up to me and ended up having back surgery. And I went from 190 something pounds to 163 pounds basically overnight.
Wow.
And I didn't know what to do when I was in that state, because I realized that, there's a lot of emotional indigestion here.
Yeah.
So I found drugs, I found alcohol during that time to suppress,
Absolutely.
to numb. But fortunate enough for me, I had like some sort of light where I was like, I'm going to help people as a strength and conditioning coach. Like I knew that was what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fortunate enough to have that direction early on. So I pursued that route thinking that I was going to work with big league athletes and that was going to be my dream job. I was going to be a high performance coach for either baseball players or hockey players. And I ended up landing a job with the Diamondbacks, which was incredibly fortunate and amazing. And I learned so much during that time, working with athletes, but more so working on myself.
Sure.
I started going within. I started meditating and finding these inner practices, this world that was seemingly so vastly different than what I was seeing externally, what I was being reflected in the sports world. I started seeing and connecting dots of this world that I live in is insane. It is fucking insane.
It's so true.
We live in a fucking insane world.
We do, yeah.
I try telling John that all the time. He doesn't listen.
And I'm like, I am being insane too.
Absolutely.
How do I get myself out of this?
Yeah.
And that started the inner journey where, as a curious soul, I'm sure a lot like yourself.
Yes.
How do I free myself from this discomfort, first of all? And I wanted freedom more than I wanted anything else, because I recognized the dream job I thought was going to be that was going to be it. I was going to work with big league baseball players as a strength and conditioning coach. What's higher than that? Yeah. And so I recognized that wasn't going to bring me happiness. And that was the point where things started going like, I got to find some answers.
Yeah. So where did you look? I mean, so I know for myself, there were certain spiritual teachers that I kind of followed in the beginning, when I was on my journey, that kind of got me into it a little bit more, that made me start looking within more and learning about meditation and mindfulness and awareness and presence. Yeah. Was there a specific teacher or some certain spiritual guide that you used or that you read about or that you followed or worked with that kind of, because usually there's always somebody or something that you kind of try to mirror a little bit in the beginning to understand more about it. So was there a specific one, or it was just kind of general for you?
I mean, John, I've studied a lot.
Yeah,
I've gone into the self-development world, the spiritual world, pretty much all of it.
all of
And
it.
but I settled, it was 2018. Dr. Joe Dispenza came into my experience, and I
Okay.
started
Yes,
using
I've
his
heard of him.
meditations to quote unquote break the habit of being myself.
Yes.
And so I would meditate for an hour every morning with my morning routine in the baseball world, trying to free myself, trying to figure out who is it that's in here and what is it that is causing this discomfort, this suffering. And um, yeah, like I said, I wanted freedom. I
You wanted
wanted to be
freedom
free, and
from yourself.
from
Isn't
myself, which was the
that's
great irony.
yes, right? And that I think it's a very big sticking point for a lot of people. Is like, what do you mean I want to be free from myself? Well, it's
Mm,
always like saying, well, our mind isn't who we are. I've always said it's a tool we use to accomplish things, to get things done, but it's not who we actually are. There's something deeper inside of us. Like for me, I call it or I followed Eckhart Tolle, was a very prominent spiritual
yeah.
teacher for me in my beginning, and he used a term like the deep I, and that could be a little hard to comprehend for certain people, especially if they're not into this as much. But it's more like the watcher. So for me, it was I learned how to watch my mind,
Mm,
watch my thoughts, watch my emotions, and understand that they're not who I am. The judgments, the criticisms, if that's something that's very running rampant in your mind, and just to learn to be that watcher. And for me, that's how I kind of started to understand that, hey, I'm not this crazy fucking voice in my head telling me this, that, the other thing. And that separation started then,
it's
so
beautiful.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it was.
Well, I think how do we communicate the power of just witnessing our experience? Because as a society, we don't even know the
Yeah,
like awareness. Yeah, like the power of now awareness. There is
awareness.
there is a power when we simply
Absolutely.
just observe, witness, and watch. And
Absolutely.
awareness is the organizing principle.
It is, sure. It's the silent pilot behind it all, that most people are on autopilot and
Yeah.
don't even realize it for most of their lives, until one day, they maybe get some sort of a whatever portal they use to get there. It could be suffering, immense suffering, physical pain, just,
Yeah.
life itself. And they're thrust into this awareness, and they realize that I don't need to believe these stories of how my life has to be, how my life was, and instead learn to live my life where it is, right now in
Mm,
the present moment. And we talk about a lot about this in our podcast. So, I mean, we've done 26, 27 episodes,
yeah.
or 28, whatever.
Yeah,
And
about
most of the,
28.
yeah, 28. And they're all based on, mindfulness and watching our thoughts. So that's why when I started following you on Instagram, I was like, I got to get him on, because he's
Yeah.
like, you embody everything that we kind of talk about.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you do breath work, which is something I don't know much about. And I know Henry wanted to know more
You
about
were
it
very
also.
curious about that.
Yeah. Well, the thing for like I started meditating in 2016,
Hmm.
and I would be meditating like in my free time. I was meditating. I was either reading Eastern philosophy,
So,
like ancient
or,
masters from Advaita Vedanta, if you're familiar with that
yeah,
lineage.
yeah.
I would read Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. He had this book called I Am That, and it's this thick book on
Mm.
consciousness. And I would spend my time when I was working in the baseball world, I would go to Starbucks on the off day and read, or I would meditate. And
Wow.
I started recognizing though that something was missing, because I would meditate and I didn't want to come back.
And you
I
didn't want to
didn't
come.
want to I
Yeah,
didn't want to be a human being.
I get it. I get it.
And
We were just talking about this.
I was like, there's got to be something missing. Like I must be missing something. I must be avoiding something. And that was when I started doing. I hired some coaches that did transformational work, and more specifically trauma work.
Yeah.
And I started feeling my body, because as you can imagine with my story, I developed this hunchback. So why did my body start taking a certain shape? And I started looking at, all right, these stories that I carry, where do they exist? And I started recognizing they're in my body, in sensation, in textures. So I started feeling the subtleties of, all right, what is happening in my body? Because I know we could go to the East and they say, I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, right?
Yeah.
Which I tried, and there was something missing. So that was when I started finding somatic work, and I hired energy healers, coaches, therapists. I mean, I was trying to. I'm like, I need everything. I need everything.
In the kitchen sink. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
I need everything, and
Michael, we have a lot of parallels with your story. A lot of things coincide. So we come from the baseball world as well, not like you. So we had kids, and I currently still have a son, currently a senior in high school, still playing the game, still doing the whole deal. But I hear you talk about your 12-year-old self, and there's part of me, and I'm sure there's part of you that wishes that that 12-year-old had the awareness that your current age, whatever you are, I don't know, you look like you're 21, but your current self, if you could, let's say, pass that to your 12-year-old self, there would have been a very smooth, or much smoother transition, not a lot of hurt, not a lot of that, let's say, that angst that came along with your story. It kind of shaped you into who you are today, but you kind of wish you can go back and say, hey, 12-year-old Michael, you don't have to go through this pain, you don't have to go through this extra pain. If you can somehow reach a young kid, young athlete right now, and sort of have them, let's say, have that separation of the sport and who you are in the sport, so that you're not completely attached, that the sport is you. So that
you just said it.
Yeah.
That's
it. That's the bondage right there, is the identity piece. And I don't know the answer to that. How does one reach a 12-year-old that's got all these hormones, that's now becoming interested in women and not sure of himself, who he is in the world, and he has to go through this insane asylum, especially in the educational system that we have developed for like there's no education yet around teaching this boy about himself and about like his thoughts and his feelings and his experience and how to treat a woman and how to set him up for making money in the future.
We've said this so many times, that the one thing that should be implemented in schools, especially at a younger age, is just basic mindfulness to children.
That's it.
To teach them to understand what's happening in their head, their thoughts, their emotions, everything, and to learn how to watch them and not necessarily take everything that runs through their head as gospel. But like when I was brought up in a very religious Catholic family in
you and
Brooklyn,
me both,
yeah. So I wasn't taught to think for myself. I was taught to follow commands and listen. And the detriment that caused was it as I got older, making choices became harder. Not being able to peel away from the thoughts in my head and the judgments I had about myself became harder, because I was always, no, do what I say, do what I say. And that's why we feel like if there is a way to, and the school systems unfortunately are what they are. I mean, I don't know if Arizona are any different. We're here in New Jersey. I don't know if it's any different than it is in New Jersey, but like if I tried to implement something like that, it would be probably frowned upon by most people. Kids don't have time for this. This isn't something that they need. When at the heart of it, it's probably the most important thing that any human being could have, is to get that seed. Like you said before, how do we reach a 12-year-old? I would say drop a seed and let it grow.
Yeah.
The seed is mindfulness, to teach them small little things and watch as it comes to fruition over years. Like, you're not going to teach a 12-year-old to think like you do or I do and to be able to watch their minds and meditate. It could be hard at that age. It's like you said, hormones and
Well,
there's
they don't
other
see the
things in their
value.
hierarchy of life. Yeah, they don't see the value of it.
What's
They
the
play
value?
ball, meet
How is
girls.
it helping me with? I'm trying to hit on this girl over here. How is that?
But it could be
the
introduced.
irony is like, if one were to regulate their breath and find mindfulness, well, that kid would be a lot calmer and cooler
Exactly.
in any environment. And now that is where I get like super geeked out about is like, whether we're talking performance, whether we're talking healing, whether we're talking about finding God, finding truth, like, it
Yeah.
comes back to mindfulness and presence and awareness. Is
And
like,
awareness.
if we want to be our best, we have to be where we are, and we're only ever in the moment. So it's like our mind is perpetually seeking a future,
Exactly.
which is also happening right now. So it's like, here we are caught in between our mind, which lives in the construct of time, but time is a very interesting it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, sure. Eckhart Tolle puts it, as he always says, is clock time, right? So we do need a certain level of, past and future to accomplish things and to move forward as a society. Absolutely 110%. But when do you cross that threshold where it becomes too much, where you're not enjoying or you're not present or you're not aware of what you're actually doing because you're thinking of the next step and you're engaged in the next, you're engrossed with the next step and the next step. And you live your life to get somewhere. And at the end of the day, were you there for any of it, or have you always been stuck in the future? Like, that was like, for me, that was mind blowing when I finally learned that, and I'm like, yeah, wow. I'm like, I've been there, but was I actually ever there for any of it, or was I always on? Okay, this is over. What's the next thing? So,
well, it's like,
Yeah.
how does one teach the benefits of mindfulness? Like, you just said it. It's like, I'm sure you had to start practicing self introspection and being mindful of yourself and your environment to get that reflection back. Like, when I first started meditating, I wanted to fix and improve myself. 2 years later, I got the insight, oh, there's nothing to fix and improve. And I'm like, oh, that is mindful. That's mindfulness.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
the work. And now, so yeah, go ahead.
No, but in doing that, you actually do, in a way, fix and improve yourself. Like, without you're not trying to change anything, but by becoming mindful and present, you actually do improve yourself to be a better version of what you are. Because you're not getting stuck between your ears. Let's just say, in those 6 inches between your ears, you're not living in here, but you're actually living your life. In the moment and what's actually happening. So you do, you're not spending your time trying to say, okay, I want to be I want to be stronger, I want to be this. And those are all great goals to have, but you're not living your life there, constantly trying to improve on the next thing, but living your life here where it actually is happening. And in doing so, you have a better quality. Maybe that's a better word. Quality of life is what you end up getting. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like the freedom we seek from chasing becoming someone, right? Like, we've been indoctrinated with thinking who we are is not enough. Exactly. And now that's the human condition. We're not enough in some way, shape, or form. We all go through it.
Yeah.
We have these limiting beliefs, every one of us, to some capacity.
Absolutely.
And all our doing is an attempt to free ourselves from this identity that goes unchecked.
Exactly.
So we think that becoming something, like, since I'm not enough, I have to become something. And we're only trying to become the best version of our limited egoic identity.
Exactly.
Which it's like the Santa Claus. Is the Santa Claus real? Right?
Yeah, right.
We think it's real until it's not. So it's like, here's the dilemma with the ego is, and it all comes back to being.
Yeah, no, listen, and the ego is this identity that, it depends on who you talk to. People, have a negative connotation of the ego. Other people just say it's the thinking mind. And how do you attach to that thinking mind? Or do you not attach to that thinking mind? So, but for me, growing up, the ego was like, if you're an egoic person, your ego, have a big ego, you're super confident, you don't care about anybody else, it's all about you. So I guess it's who you speak to on that definition of it. But I've always looked at the ego as the thinking mind. It's not there to hurt you, it's there to survive. The mind's job is to survive. That's what it wants to do. But when we start believing everything it says, and it's like you said before, it goes unchecked, well, that's when you go down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. And I know me and Henry were speaking about this before. What interested us is, so you do a lot of work with breath work. So if you have a client, what exactly do you do? Like, I do meditate, but I've never done breath work. So I'm kind of interested in learning more about exactly what it is.
Yeah, breath is inhaling is the first thing we do when we arrive on the planet. Exhaling is the last thing we do when we leave. That's great. In between every inhale, every exhale, and the pauses is every one of our experiences. So I like dissect. Most people they attempt to describe the breath from oxygen, CO2, and all this scientific jargon, which I have zero interest in. I'm interested in helping people free themselves from their suffering. That's it. So the breath to me, well, I could speak from my own experience when here's a 22-year-old boy about to get back surgery. And if someone were to have told me about my breath, like I was literally choking myself. Why did I have back pain? Why did I have back problems? Because I had been practicing tightening my whole system, my mind, my body. I created a turtle shell because I was so terrified to feel myself. Yeah, go ahead.
No, did you ever have the surgery or no?
So I did. I had the back surgery, 7 months. It never healed. And that was when I had to learn how to start moving my body functionally. So I started with functional movement, and then the breath has really been following me because I started learning about anatomy and how my breath was dictating how I was carrying myself posturally. And so I feel like the breath is the easiest way to communicate to us, because the moment we slow down the breath, what happens to our mind?
It slows down eventually with us. Yeah, absolutely.
So it has to slow down. And most people's breath is very shallow. And once we start elongating the breath, we start opening our body. Well, now here we start feeling things. Yeah. And we start recognizing why we have addictions, why we have certain patterns, because we're afraid to feel. And I'll be the first person I am fucking terrified to feel because it's painful.
Sure it is.
To start this body is far more intelligent than the mind. So I use breath work.
You're a spiritual Rolls Royce. You are. Dude, this is great stuff right here.
I've been around the block, like I'm sure you two have been there as well.
No. I think living, we're in there always. You're in a constant, let's say, struggle for betterment. Improvement. I think that never ends. I don't think. But I do want to ask you, while you were working with, let's say, the Diamondbacks, were you at that moment? I don't know if you still work with them or not, but were you as spiritual as you are right now, and were you able to pass that on to the players, or was it during a transition that you weren't really as enlightened as you are right now? But I'm just wondering if you were able to pass that on.
I feel like I've definitely had some wisdom when I was in the baseball world, but it wasn't really until I started doing Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations, when I started understanding why like truth seeking didn't enter my awareness until probably 2018, 2019, when we had 7 hamstring injuries and went at the affiliate club that I was with, and 2 hamstring raises an eyebrow. And here I was studying about energy and environment of energy with Dr. Joe, and I'm like, oh, it's happening right in front of my eyes. Yeah. So to answer your question, I mean, I think what is spiritual? Like, we're all, what is thought? What is sensation and feeling? What is life?
Well, because
it's the label that we use.
John and I always talk about the youth baseball aspect, and the first thing I asked you was related to the youth, and I have this vision, perhaps it's utopian, that we can reach kids younger, so that we kind of bridge the, in your case, you know what, Michael, it's not that your case is unique. I think it's your case, and then there's John's case, and there's mine, and we all have been through some suffering and something that we would like to not have gone through, or let's say handle it differently, be able to process it differently. And I think that if we can somehow reach the youth, and it would make them into an incredible adults that don't have to go through, as you said before, we don't have to seek comfort in a chemical, in alcohol, in other things that we might not want to, partake in because they're dangerous and have other effects. Yeah. But, like I had an idea with John the other day, and I said, you want to get a 12-year-old kid to be interested in mindfulness? Let them know it can improve their game by 50%. 50%. So many people go on steroids. Many professional athletes will go on steroids for a 10%, a 15%. Well, this could probably 50% or double your let's say your metrics, your stats. You're going to hit better. You're going to be able to focus on the ball better. When you're in the box, there's a lot of things going on to your mind. You can concentrate better. Yeah. So that was my worm on the hook, to sort of get the youth in. But how do we accomplish this big goal? I don't know. But it's certainly that's what you would want to see.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, what started you two on the journey of being more mindful? Yeah.
For me, it was actually obsessive compulsive disorder. So as a kid, I had it, but I didn't realize I did. But in my early 40s, it got really intense, and actually, I sought therapy. And when I was in therapy, I had started. A friend of mine gave me the book as I was starting therapy, "The Power of Now" by Eckhart Tolle. And when I read it the first time, it's a great book, but the first time you read it, you're done with it, because I blew through the book trying to find an answer. I was still looking for answers. I'm looking for answers. So I read the book, and there was a couple lines in it that kind of resonated with me. And with the, I hear this voice in my head, but then who is the person that's hearing the voice that's speaking? And there's two. There's the voice that's speaking, and I. So once I kind of started with that a little bit, in therapy, I practice acceptance commitment therapy. I don't know if you ever heard of it. ACT. It's phenomenal. It's a scientific version of Eastern spiritual teachings. Dr. Stephen Hayes basically took mindfulness and gave it scientific terms: expansion, living your life by values, and just made it easier for maybe certain minds to understand it. So once I started practicing acceptance commitment therapy, mindfulness started to make more sense to me. And then I started reading. Reread the book, and I started reading other books about mindfulness and following other spiritual teachers, started meditating daily, and then little by little that portals started showing up more and more, until one day it just kind of clicked that I was always watching my mind, to where no matter what emotion was coming up, or even physical pain like you experienced with your back. I had a C4, C5 disc issue about 5-6 years ago. And about a year into it, after doing physical therapy and everything, as this journey was happening for me, I started focusing more on just not labeling this pain, understanding that it was there, and not wanting it to go away, or wanting maybe, but not needing it to go away anymore. And soon after that, the pain started to dissipate more and more because the resistance that I had for it sort of went away. So, I mean, and then from there, it's just been a constant, just going deeper and deeper with it and deeper with it. And I wrote a book about it, and we have this podcast about it. So for me, that the journey started maybe when I was 42. I'm 48 now. So about 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I say life-changing, I wish I knew this in my 20s, because so many things would have been less painful to experience. No matter what's happening, it's an experience. It's not something that I have to attach to, or I could feel an emotion. I don't have to like it, but it doesn't have to be who I am, and nor do I have to suffer it. Because suffering, I always say, is a choice. We choose to suffer. I mean, that's where kind of my journey started and is continued on to today, where we are now.
Brilliant. How about you, Henry?
Yeah, well, the brother and sister anxiety and depression just have been plaguing me for my entire life, and you wonder, is this normal? Is everybody else like this? This can't be normal.
It's everyone's like this, which is insane.
Right.
Michael, I don't know. Are you familiar with Scott Adams?
I'm not.
Oh, great. He's the creator of Dilbert,
Okay.
the comic strip. So he's gone off he does his podcast and everything, and he says there's something called the basket case theory.
That's exactly
You ever run into somebody who looks like they have everything together, and you're like, oh wow, this person has everything together. Like this, look at him,
shit together. Yeah.
Look at him. This guy's a roller. Look at his. And then the truth is, once you get to know them, really, everybody is a basket case.
Everyone.
That's the basket case theory. Everybody. And it doesn't matter. The guy, the girl, you think, they got it all. No, they're all basket cases. So we're all basket cases. So if we're all basket cases, I don't feel too bad. But I also would like to harness what's going on. And thanks to John, he was the guy that kind of helped me. And we found each other because we've been friends forever. But John would start to talk to me about what he's thinking, and then I was like, whoa, John, you're not alone. I have super severe anxiety, and before you know it, we were therapizing each other, and I learned a lot from him. And in the beginning, I think he learned a lot from me, just talking to me. And I told him about the helicopter view. I want you to see yourself from above and see what's going on. Don't be in it, just look at yourself, and kind of like where would you direct yourself to go or do or say. And that was kind of how we all started. But yeah, my whole life, anxiety, depression, that's my thing. Just like John was OCD, anxiety, depression.
Yeah. See, it's like it's the suffering that's it's the launching pad to looking for ourselves.
Exactly. That's usually when you realize that you're suffering and you just don't want to be there anymore. Hopefully, people don't take the option of medicating and drugs, and that seems to be one avenue that many people take. But for us, it was this realizing that we were experiencing these things and we're not. So I always tell Henry, like when we first started, I said, you're not depressed and you're not anxious. I go, you experience sad feelings and you experience anxious feelings. Once you go around saying I am, you've done what? He goes, identified with it. I go, yes. Now you're identified with that. Now you are it. You've become that thing. You've created this identity where you are this. I go, and your mind is not stupid. Your mind is a fucking machine. It hears what you think, and once you give it credence and you believe it, it attaches to that and go, okay, Henry, I'm depressed and I'm anxious. And it'll bring that up more and more and more. But when you change the narrative and realize, I'm just experiencing this, wow, this space immensely grows all of a sudden. And you're like, okay, I feel that sad feeling, but I'm not that sad feeling. And all of a sudden that sad feeling withers away, like a cloud that floats by, a wave that rolls in. It's not fixed. It flows in and it flows out. And if you allow it to, right? The whole key is don't slam on the brakes. Let it come in and let it flow out. And I mean, that's how I kind of approach it. And it works really, really well. It's that not identifying with these labels that your mind wants to give you right away.
It's the game of life,
Yeah.
is transcending our
absolutely.
limitations. And
Absolutely.
it's why
Is
we're
it-
here.
I told John there's a cheat code. This is a cheat. Mindfulness has been a cheat code.
It's
Yeah.
It really has.
It is a cheat code for sure. There's a reason
Yeah.
why it's stood the test of time.
Yeah.
These ancient
Yeah.
masters have been speaking about awareness and mindfulness since the beginling. And
for eons.
Ayurveda, the longest form of medicine that's at the forefront, is self-empowerment and self-healing, self-regeneration.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to say this point, and then you can ask the question. But I hear all the time, everyone's like this saying, the only constant in life is change. And I'm like, we're missing the most obvious thing. The most the constant in life is we're in it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing everyone's missing is themselves. And that if they were to come into contact with themselves, well, we wouldn't need the material things. Like, we wouldn't be chasing material things for our happiness, because we'd recognize we are the happiness. We can enjoy the material world.
Absolutely.
We just aren't dependent on a
Not
passing
attached.
cloud in the sky for our happiness.
Exactly. You're not attached to those things. That car isn't who I am. It's a car. I enjoy driving it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. You're allowed to, but your identity isn't based on that. And that's exactly what you're saying, is chasing that next feeling, chasing that next, because it becomes a game of what's next. What's next? That's an exhausting way to do. So I have a question. So when you have a client and they come to you and they want to do breath work, like if I was a guy off the street,
Yeah.
totally unconscious, like I'm locked into my head and what it tells me. So how would you start out with a person like that? So I'm like, Michael, listen, I want to learn about this breath work. Tell me more about it. But my head tells me I'm a fucking asshole and I'm a loser and I can't do nothing. What do I do?
Yeah. I mean, I have set up my sessions to guide the clients, and all my sessions are just to guide people out of their mind. So it's as simple as me guiding them to the breath and telling them to pay attention to the breath. And then as the process unfolds, I know underneath there's an energetic transmission of just them being on the call. So I imagine when Henry found you, there was an energetic transmission because you carried a level of embodiment with the work that you've done. So the conversation's always under the conversation. Whether someone believes in energy or not, they can feel, oh, John's figured out something over there.
You said this, yeah.
I want to work with John because he has something that I know I don't experience right now.
100%.
Peace, freedom, presence, whatever one. They may not know that's what they want, but really that's what they want. So when people come to me, I'm just a mirror for them. I'm not trying to,
Michael,
I'm not trying to sell them on anything. I know what they want, and I don't say that from a place of arrogance. I say it because it's the only fucking thing that I wanted.
Exactly.
It's the only thing that brought me what I was seeking. I'm seeking something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's great that you said mirror, because we've spoken about that on our episodes so many times. I've spoken to Henry personally, be like, you want somebody, like say you have a family member that's just unconscious and you want to reach them. I always say, be a mirror for them. Be the reflection where they see themselves in you and they start to realize it, because you can't force somebody into presence. So do you ever feel like when you're with a client, do they have resistance? Like, because you tell somebody, okay, start breathing with me, and you're doing whatever exercise you're doing with them. Like, I've done this with my kids, and my kids are like, they take 3 breaths and they're like, yeah, Dad, I can't. I'm getting bored. I'm full. Or my wife would tell me, I'll meditate with you. I'll fall asleep in 30 seconds. I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
Because it's
so
your
like,
wife and kids.
how do you deal with somebody who has?
Well, that's the thing. I don't deal with them. They have to deal with them. It's their choice. It is their choice. It is their choice whether they want to deal with the resistance that they have within them. I can feel the resistance because I'm very sensitive.
Yes.
And this has been part of my process, is strengthening my own, because as a having nice guy tendencies and people pleasing, and
empathetic, I'm sure.
that conditioning hasn't just gone away overnight.
No.
It's there to teach me how can I remain in myself and not get lost in my client. And so I'm always practicing being here in my experience, connected to myself, in order to help whether someone wants to deal with the resistance or not. It's really up to them. And what I've come to understand from my own just observation with the world and that we live in, people are terrified. Like if you told someone, hey, go spend 4 hours in a room alone by yourself and be with your experience without doing anything.
Yeah.
People are terrified. And if we wanted to heal the world, that would be my number one recommendation. Go into a room with yourself, be with yourself in absolute silence, and learn how to be with what comes up. Because if one can be present with the fear, with the terror, with the shame, with the anxiety, with what arises, that is the purge. The nervous system is purging itself.
It's purging itself.
So that's the power of mindfulness, is we don't listen to the conditioning that's driving us into our own destruction. I think the Native Americans had a term for it. It's called Watiko. A mind parasite, like that part of us that is resisting our own good, and yet it's seeking a way out. It's the seeker and the resistor. So yeah, the ego wants to be permanent. But it's a part of the flux, and yet, of course, people are going to feel resistance in this process. It has to happen. So
that resistance, that resistance is necessary for them to kind of evolve past it. They need to feel it. They need to know it's there. I mean, just working and talking to people that I've kind of dealt with, like you said before, I think was spot on. That you could feel that. You could feel when somebody has that block up or has that wall up where they're not allowing themselves to truly feel what's happening, and they're just kind of looking for a way out right away. And I'm gonna do a little bit more because breath work is something I personally really haven't done. In meditation, yes, and deep breathing, but I'm actually going to take a look into it, because it's something that every meditative teacher that I've worked with, or any spiritual teacher I've worked with, always takes it back to the breath. Now, when I used to hear breath, it would be not by taking nice deep breaths, expanding your lungs, focusing on the inhale, focusing on the exhale, bringing your attention to that breath that's going out. But it sounds like you take it a step further with actual breath work. So it's definitely something that I'm personally going to look into it, because it sounds like if there's another, I don't know if level is the right word, but where I could go even personally, even go deeper than I think I am right now, I would definitely be interested in taking a look at that. So,
it's something that like I've just come into recent contact with over the past years. Kundalini yoga, if you're familiar with Kundalini yoga, which is actually the yoga of awareness, which is super fascinating. But for me, breath work is really, because we are in these dense bodies. We do experience these bodies, and there's density in these bodies. Absolutely. And how do we begin to circulate our energy? Well, we can start using our breath to start opening up our bodies, to start liberating energy. That way we have more energy for our life, for our relationships, for our purpose, our business, whatever endeavor we want. When we're able to expand our bodies, to open our bodies, well, we now have access to just more life force, which is, we can now use that life force in any way we want to use it.
Yeah,
Now, the
sure.
tricky part here is we have habits and conditioning that sucks our life force. And that's the teacher. It's there to show us, because now we can make conscious choice in the future. Once I'm aware of a certain habit, a pattern, I can make a new choice. And I know that if I am in contact with my breath, if my breath is deep and long and slow, my nervous system's regulated. And I know that's a power. If one brings a regulated nervous system to a dysregulated nervous system, what's going to happen to the dysregulated nervous system? Well, it's going to start to slow.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah. No, that's. I mean, it sounds such a simple thing, the breath, but yet it has such a tremendous effect on how our bodies work, how our approach to life is, and everything in between. And most people don't understand that, don't have that foresight to realize that how important, like you said when we first started, which I thought was great, how a breath is the first thing we take when we enter this point, when we're born, and how that exhale is the last thing as we exit this world. I mean, that sentence right there embodies exactly how important, I mean, obviously breathing is, but how important the breath is in regulating everything in between those two moments. So I mean, it's great work that you're doing. It's great that you do this. I'm super happy to hear that your story has, I mean, where it started out, what you went through was probably necessary for you to be where you are, right? So obviously we all would want to go through life without experiencing certain things, but if you wouldn't have gone through what you went through, you wouldn't be what you are today. You wouldn't be who you are today. It was almost the universe's way of saying, Michael, I need you to go through this so you can become this for other people in this world.
sounds like the universal lens right there.
Yeah.
Well, I think we start to understand that my experience, I share it as a way to help others connect to their own my experience isn't it's unique to me, but it's not unique in the grand scheme of things.
No.
We're all conditioned into limitation and suffering in some capacity, and we get an opportunity to free ourselves when we make that choice for ourselves. And I call it the missing ingredient with many of the work that people share, like especially in the spiritual space, is grace, the power of grace.
Yes.
I mean,
absolutely.
I believe in AA, the first thing they tell people in AA is that what is it that they're no, it's not coming to me right now. But
when John and I first started, our podcast, I told him, I said, this is something similar to the AA principle, where part of what keeps me, let's say, on the wagon is the fact that I have to mentor another person to stay on the wagon. So the fact that I have somebody that I have to look out for somebody else, and I have to impart my wisdom, impart my peace, my whatever technique I use to sort of help myself, I have to stay on top of somebody else. But it's in the act of that teaching, it's in the act of that passing it on, that you help yourself. And basically that's where the magic happens, is the fact that you have to help somebody else. So when you help somebody else, you're really helping yourself. And it's kind of like that, pass it on. You create this chain of people all helping each other. And that's what kind of keeps you, let's say, sober, in the case of AA.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's a level of integrity and responsibility. Is like, if I'm claiming as a coach, if I'm a coach over here, that means I have to hold myself to a certain standard, a certain level of embodiment, to be able to say that, yeah, I'm a spiritual mentor or a high performance coach or whatever it is we do, this is for all of us humans, is like, if we're going to label ourselves something, there's a level of integrity that as consciousness is rising on the planet that we have to step into. So, well, we don't have to, but we'll know, and people's sensitivity, they'll know too, because they'll know if this guy's just talking smoke or whether there's some actual substance.
It's the old adage, practice what you preach, right? So if I'm going to speak about mindfulness, that's how I live my life. So Eckhart Tolle has this saying where he says, not everybody's meant to be a teacher. Some people aren't meant to be teachers, but are meant to be placeholders of presence. And the placeholders of presence are people who maybe aren't geared to actually go out in the world and teach it. So sort of like you are, right? So you're a teacher of presence and mindfulness and breath work. But you have people who are placeholders of presence. Means I'm not maybe going to be a spiritual teacher out in the world, but my community around me, I'm going to be its placeholder of presence, where my energy, the way I live my life, my presence and my mindfulness, my awareness is going to reflect onto everybody around me. And slowly that change starts to infect is the wrong word, starts to energize the person next to me and that person and that person. So maybe I'm not going to be a spiritual teacher per se, but I touch 100 people, and those 100 people see a difference in me, and that difference reflects back onto them. And all of a sudden, they start living their lives a little bit different, and they start having a little bit more of awareness. And sometimes they don't even know where it came from. They don't realize how it's happening, but it's just because of this one person, this couple of people around them who just hold that presence for those who are maybe unconscious around them. So I mean, there's so many different ways that we could, so many different ways that we could help this to exponentially grow. And like you said before, the world is an insane place. There's no doubt about that. Unfortunately, I would love to tell you it's not, but it is. And hopefully we could keep reaching people, and hopefully we have more people like you who actually take a leading role to help and actually teach and put themselves out there to be teachers and work with people one-on-one. We definitely need more people teaching us how to do that instead of teaching us how to make TikTok videos about dumb stuff that doesn't help anybody.
Well, I think it just shows where people's interest levels at, right? So
exactly.
It's truth is a great irony. It's like when one comes to discover it, it's like, how do I share this with the world? Because the ego wants to share it. It wants to now fit this thing that's infinite into the world. And that's where the journey, that's the beauty of the journey, is like, I don't consider myself a teacher. Like, I'm a teacher, student, I'm all of it. And I look at the high school kids teaching me just as much as potentially I could teach them. And vice versa. It's like, so here we are.
The fact that you just said that shows why. I mean, so teacher is a label, right? That we give ourselves for practical purposes. But a true, and Henry, we've spoken about this, a true person who's actually teaching it, even though they don't call themselves teachers, will say exactly what you just said. Where I'm not a teacher, I'm a teacher and a student. I learn through the act of teaching and working with other people, as opposed to somebody who claims to be a teacher and just is, okay, do this.
That's not a teacher.
Exactly. Have a nice day. Just do these 20 things and you've learned mindfulness. Wow.
Go to page 34, read the paragraph.
Yeah. So,
I mean, that's how we were taught, and that's how we grew this insane world that we grew. But we needed that contrast.
Sure.
We need this contrast in so that we can get access to true wisdom, which is always just it will present itself. It will speak itself in the moment. And so we value the intellect in the West, an accumulated mind, where the East values emptying out the mind. So it's like,
right, an empty mind is a wonderful thing.
And now here's the tricky part, because our mind's going to say, how do I communicate this to this person, which is taking us out of being present. So now the practice, the true master knows that they know nothing.
Exactly.
They know absolutely nothing. The moment someone says I'm an expert, I know I am not learning from, like that's someone I don't want to learn
especially
from.
with this. Yeah, no.
I want to
especially
learn
with
from
this.
someone
I
that
must be a master. I'm a master.
that's it.
I know
Yeah.
nothing.
I know nothing. And is there
I
freedom
know
in
nothing.
that? What's the freedom in that? Yeah. That feels
Yeah.
fucking great. Well,
Great,
stay
it does.
stay there.
Stay there.
Do life from there.
The need not to know, and we've said this so many times, the need not to know is liberating. The need not to know how things are going to end up or what. And I always said, I don't need to know. And people look at me like, you don't need to. I mean, there's no urge for me to know, because once I need to know something, or once I want to say, I know this, I know that, I know that, I've been, like you just said, I've been taken out of the one place where I want to live my life, like in absolute presence. Now, yeah, we do need our mind to think and do things, but
Yeah.
this need to know is, and that's the main one of the main sicknesses, I think, especially in the Western world, where we have this obsessive need to know everything and figure everything out and have every answer. And you see, I'm squinting because I'm getting exhausted. My head actually starts to hurt just thinking about this need to know everything. So,
yeah, but what is it? What is it that we actually know?
I don't know.
Like,
I'll
what is
answer that.
Yeah.
I'll answer that.
Yeah.
The only thing we know is that we exist.
That beautiful.
That's the only thing we know.
Freedom is in that.
Yeah.
We exist.
We
That's
exist.
the answer to that question.
And when you understand that, that's when you know that you've embodied presence and you're actually living in that moment, so that's very nice.
And I would argue that living from that place is the only place we can truly help another person.
Absolutely.
Is when we are quote unquote out of our own way, because when we're out of our own way, we are now in a frequency of our being, which is, whether we want to relate to it as being or whatever we want to call it, awareness, it carries a fragrance of love, of happiness,
Absolutely.
of joy. And it's like, where has this thing been my whole life?
No jealousy, no envy, no
and even
nothing.
Even if that automatic, because we've been trained a certain way, we said that before, right? Our behaviors have been ingrained in us through our upbringing, our surroundings, our environment. Even if that thought does come up because it's the mind has learned, well, this is said, react this way. It's when you believe it and you don't have that awareness to see it and allow it just to float out the same way it came in, wherever it came from, that thought, to just keep passing. It's grabbing it and saying, but I must be jealous right now. Who do they think they are? And here I go down the rabbit hole. It's allowing to just, and the more you let it float by, in time, the less they start to show up, because you're not giving those thoughts any credence. And so, yeah, it's an amazing thing. The mind, as great as it is there's a lot that we understand scientifically about it, but I say there's so much that we have no idea. We just don't understand it, and I'm not looking to live my life trying to figure it out. I love, like Henry said, I just want to exist until I don't.
Well, the question is too, like, what part of us wants to know the science behind how our mind works?
The mind,
the ego that is just trying to, like, and when I say ego, so my definition of ego is mental activity that identifies itself with a shape, because the ego is designed to keep us alive, to survive. Exactly. Our ancestors needed our ego in order to survive the times that they developed into, and it is great to have an ego for those life-threatening situations. And if we're so fortunate to even have this conversation, some people are trying to figure out where their next meal is, and like, which is incredibly sad to think about, like, world hunger being an issue. Like, it's insane. But yeah, going back to, it's the ego is always constantly trying to figure out things, because that's what it bases its life and its existence on. So science is great, because it gets people interested, it gets them
Sure.
going. But there's at some point we got to swallow and digest our food. Concepts up here are fine, they're great, but they have to assimilate into,
Exactly.
combust into something. So
Very true. Very true. Henry?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Michael,
You've left him
Nothing.
speechless.
you've been great. I could do a show with Michael every week too.
Yeah, no.
You were
Listen,
great,
man,
Michael. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming on with us. We had a great time. It's always a pleasure speaking with somebody who lives their life in this world, and I'm talking about the mindfulness world presence. We definitely need more people out there. It'd be nice to, wake up one day and say we live in a world full of mindful people.
Yeah,
Who have
yeah.
a mindful person who has nothing on their mind. That term mindfulness is very, gives
We'll
gives you the idea. Well, my mind's full. Actually, no, it's not how
keep
it works. But language is language, and we need to use the words that we've been given. So,
just keep on doing what we're doing.
yeah, absolutely.
That's it. People will start feeling us. The more we empty ourselves out, the more we get access to our being, and
Absolutely.
that being unites us all. So it's
Yes, sir.
beautiful work that y'all
Just keep
are
going.
bringing forward into this world, and people are gonna seek this. They're gonna continue to seek this work, and
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
happening at a rate that it's never happened. It's never this time that we're in is quite unique, and
It's definitely picked up.
Yep.
Yeah, it's become more. Definitely, there's more. There's a call and a need for more awareness, but I also I see little by little more of it happening in the world. More and more people seeking this out, seeking something, and some don't even know what they're looking for, but that's actually what they are looking for, and that's the good news, right? That I think it's trending that way, and hopefully it'll trend quicker, and we get to more people because the time runs out after a while. if the insane unconscious behaviors don't, unfortunately, cease. But again, Michael, thank you very much. We had a great time. So anybody, Monk's Mind on Instagram. Are you on Facebook?
I'm not on
No,
Facebook.
you're on Instagram. Check him out. Or you could look up a Michael Locasto, right? You have two handles.
Yes. Yeah, and then my website is monksmind.life. If
Very
anyone
good.
wants to check out the work.
Yeah.
but-
And by the way, your artwork for the Monk's Mind, spot on, man. Very nice. Your logo, I love it.
I have a girl who does it, and she's so conscious and so great at what she does, and
Very good.
so
yeah.
she's helped her. Groove Street is her name.
Groove Street,
awesome.
That's her business. Yeah.
Awesome. She out in Arizona with you, or?
She is in Ohio, I believe, right now.
Oh,
Yeah, but
okay.
I met her through a local friend.
Oh,
So
great.
Awesome.
yeah,
Very good. Yeah.
but
Well, listen. Best of luck. Continue doing what you're doing, my friend, and maybe we'll have you on again someday. Let's keep doing what we're doing. And again, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy afternoon to spend a few hours with a couple of guys in New Jersey. But
yes,
I think a lot of people get a lot of benefit from this conversation that we had.
I hope so. John,
Yeah.
Henry, it's such a pleasure, and I'll finish. I can
Sure.
feel the love that you guys carry, and that
Oh, man.
that to me
Thank you,
is
man.
that to me is the thing. Because philosophy, I hope people didn't just think we were just speaking philosophy, like that there was an
Yes.
actual loving presence that was here, that is tangible, that is felt, because it can sound very esoteric,
Yeah.
but the thing with what I felt on this call was love, was true love.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
so
Heart is on the table.
Yeah, man.
That's
It's truly caring, and I guess love is the best word, but it's truly caring and being loving and without even trying to let it come out when
Yeah.
you live your life in this kind of presence and mindfulness, it just emanates out of you, and the people around you feel it. They feel that energy. They feel this kind of peace and calm around you. And you'll start to see, I've always told Henry, how certain people attract to you when you're like this, and others who aren't ready tend to not want to. But the people who attract to you are ready, and they're in a place where they like what they feel from you, and they're wanting more of it. And sometimes, like I said before, they don't even realize what they want, but they know that they want more of this feeling that you kind of emanate. So I got the same thing from you on this phone call. Believe it or not, even before we had the phone call, just listening to your videos, you have a super smooth voice, by the way. I don't know, you speak very, very clear, but you have a very calming voice too.
Yes,
just
sir.
listening to your videos was for me, was just, I would sit there and I would hear them and listen to them, and it was very calming, and I could feel your energy actually coming through my phone. And actually, I'm like, wow, this guy is grounded. Like, I could tell it's not an act. It's not some, ploy just to get people in. Like, this gentleman is actually grounded, and I could feel it. So,
beautiful. Thank you for that reflection.
Absolutely, man.
Amazing. All right, gentlemen.
All right.
Thank you, Michael.
Till next
Michael.
time.
Yep. Till next time, my friend. Have a great one.
See ya.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. You hung up? All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, everybody. We're going to get you guys out of here because I know that was a long episode. Henry clicked out at the same time. So he's gone. So I'm going to tie this episode up. Thanks everybody for checking us out today. Oh, Henry wants to come back and say hello. Henry is.
You can't close this out without me.
All right. Well, you left, dude. Where'd you go?
Yeah, I for a moment I'm on Zoom and like boom off. How great was Michael?
Yeah, man. It was so a really grounded individual, right? Like totally just like you could feel, and like I said to him, you could feel his presence. Like I felt him. I would feel it through videos, but you could feel that this dude is just grounded, and he's connected. Like he like what he talks about. It's not a guy who's trying to sell you on something. Like he not believes it.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, he had nothing to
lives
sell.
it.
So.
He lives what he's talking about. So when somebody's like that, there's no for me. There's no ploy there. This is a legit guy who has done the work, has the tools, and could be a benefit to so many people. So anybody out there, like if you're looking for somebody to work with as far as meditating goes, or breath work, or I know we use the term teacher, but we have to because it's language that we need to use. Give him a look out. Give him a look. Monk's Mind on Instagram, or you have his name, Michael Locasto, too. On Instagram, he has both handles. Check him out, either one. Check out his website. So I don't know. Anything else, Henry?
No, it was great.
That was a little long, but it's okay.
Yeah, these people, I'm sure, want to go home and cut it off. Audience, relax, everybody. Hey,
hold on.
All of you, relax.
I'll give.
It was great. I was thoroughly impressed. I like the last part where he said that before you go.
Henry, that was
for you. Everybody shut up at the same time. All right. Now, at the end when he said, I could feel there's a lot of love. There's a lot of, everything we did here was from love. And
genuine. I was the word I was trying to get to, and I couldn't. It's genuine. It's not like I really believe he's a very genuine person. And when he said that he felt that, and I can tell you it's true because I know you're a genuine person. I know I am. Like we're not sitting here trying to,
No, people don't know, but I make like $2 million a month from the show.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, but it's not the reason I do the show. I mean, I'm just saying.
Here's a question: how come I haven't seen any of this money yet?
It's it's accruing interest.
Right.
And,
I think I'm gonna knock you off the call myself.
Oh man, no, that's great.
All right, let's get people out of here.
All right, everybody.
All right, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. All right,
see you.
Take care, everybody. Okay. The insights and discussions that we speak about on our show are our own opinions and based on our life experiences. If you or someone in your family or someone you know is suffering and in need of help, please get them that help through medical attention or seeking proper therapy. Again, what we speak about are based on our experiences and not intended to be taken as a form of therapy. Thank you.